Let's go, Rider Nation.
I'm ready. I'm ready. Yeah, here we go. It's a feeling now. Hit 'em high, hit 'em low, 'cause we're dealing now. Everybody's giving it all they got, 'cause we're ready.
Welcome to your Saskatchewan Rough Rider fan podcast. This is the Piffles podcast. Thanks so much for joining us here this week as we get ready for the CFL semifinals. And I'm looking forward to taming some lions. You got me. I'm Alex.
I can't believe I sat through that game.
And I didn't because my family doesn't know how to dress.
And I was somewhere in the middle because I was there, but I did not pay attention whatsoever. So talking about this upcoming game is going to be fun. You can give us a follow.
We care as much as the team did that day.
I was going to say, if the team didn't care, why should we?
And it's all Mother Nature's fault. We'll talk about that. You can give us a follow on X at Piffles Pod. I'm at Real Alex D.
You can find me at Safamod.
And as always, I do not need nor want your pity follows at Greg on Sports.
Check us out on Facebook as well, Instagram, and of course the website pifflespodcast.com. Thanks for listening wherever you find us, getting your favorite podcasts, watching on YouTube, watching on SAS Telemax TV on demand. Steve with the little cheek plug there. Love it. Very nice. That's a nice looking mug.
Thank you. It's a Yeti.
Oh, even better. And of course, Piffles Podcast is brought to you by Dairy Queen on Elphinstone Street and SAS Drive in Regina. Before we talk a little bit of riders, we'll get this. Greg, I know it was kind of, disappointing for you, but we do have to congratulate the Regina Thunder on one hell of a season. They did lose to the Okanagan Sun on Sunday, ending their quest for going for the CJFL championship. But what was it, 28-14, I believe?
28-14 final.
Yep.
It was tough game. It was a 3-point game going into halftime, and also Mother Nature was playing tricks at Libel. That wind was a strong one, and we just had trouble fighting it. And it sucks, but as a grown man watching other grown men who like fifth-year players realizing it's their last game in Thunder Maroon, in legit tears, it just tears your heart out. Like it's
emotional.
It's emotional. Like those guys put their 5 years of their life into that team trying to get that national championship, and they were one game away, and legit a pick six and just a broken play, and they just couldn't recover.
Honestly, they should have just let Saskatoon win the week before. That's what people were saying, right?
This is supposed to be a family show, and I am trying to show the Hilltops fans, after I told them to suck it last week, some reverence, and then they were in my mentions about how the Thunder should just rolled over. Fans are stupid. I am sorry. That is the dumbest logic I've ever heard. Like, yeah, your team should have lost so our team could have beat the other team. No, your team lost, showed up, didn't play well, and we beat them. So move on. Anyway, okay. I did that without cursing this time.
You were close.
I'm really proud of you.
That the video of The Rock where he goes off is the direction you can blank.
Oh yeah,
that I play all the time. You were close to saying that. You were very close.
And actually, I'm pretty sure I did that in real life when I saw those initial tweets. I had to check my account a few times, make sure it was from my account, not from the Thunder account.
That would have been bad.
Yeah, it would have been very bad.
But overall, a very, very good season for the Thunder. So we're proud of you here, and just next year, right?
Yeah. Hey, next year is another year. Next year, the PFC hosts the Canadian Bowl, so hopefully it's here in Regina.
All right. Well, let's get to the pros now. Let's talk about the Riders and their game against Calgary. We'll start with there. Let's get to the opening kickoff. I'm not going to lie. I did not care about this game. I didn't even want to go after the first game on Saturday. Winnipeg and Montreal. Maybe we just start with that, because that sucked all the fun out of what could have been a perfectly scripted Super Saturday for the CFL. And a gust of wind forced a shanked punt, and that took the Riders out of contention for first place, really.
Well, you guys know, because we were DMing each other as it was going. I was at my son's hockey practice, and I'm following the game, and I'm watching hockey, and I'm following the game, and I'm watching hockey. And then I'm like, okay, Montreal's got this. Like, even if they go 3 and out here, they're going to punt it deep after the missed 60-yarder. I'm like, okay, like, this is not a problem. Even if they go 2 and out, we're fine. And then all of a sudden I see 21-yard punt. What? And then you're sending me messages, and I'm like, what just happened? Because that is just absolutely incredible. And if I see one more tweet that God is a Bombers fan, I am probably going to throw my laptop.
I might have to send you a tweet just to test that theory. But you look at that, there was 2 issues I had at the end of that game. Number one, the returner running it out of the end zone to take the ball was at the 19 to start that next drive, as opposed to giving up the meaningless point and getting it at the 40. And then that punt. And you say a gust of wind. That was a gale force. They called it a leaf tornado on the broadcast. And out of nowhere, there was none of that until that exact moment right before the punt.
And then it started pouring rain too.
Yeah. Like, it just... I lost my voice at tailgate because I started cheering after they missed the field goal. With a minute left, that should have been over. We were having a good time pregame, and yeah, that was a horrible finish to what could have been a very fun Saturday.
And just walking into Mosaic Stadium, getting ready for this game, just before kickoff, there was no energy, no buzz. You could tell just all of it got sucked out from that first game. So kudos to everybody that showed up, because that game meant nothing. Clearly meant nothing to the team. They were just trying to get out of it healthy, which basically they did. The big thing was Trevor Harris, AJ Ouellette, Sam Emelis, Keyshawn Johnson on offense, all resting. Roland Milligan. No injuries. Joe Robustelli, of course, he was on the injured report today, day 1 of practice, with a shoulder injury. But let's be honest here, he's not going to play in the postseason, barring something crazy. So most importantly, the guys who are going to play this week, no injuries, and that's ultimately all that mattered about this game. But I do want to get you guys' take on what you saw out of the quarterbacks. We'll start with Shea Patterson. Went 5 of 12 for, I had it open here, 56 yards. Almost the full first half. What did you guys think of Shea Patterson in this one?
He was bad. Bad doesn't even begin to describe it. That was... I understand he's playing with the second stringers, and it was bad. In fairness, Colton Hunchak, I think, was his leading target in the first half. So if that's your go-to guy, I'm not exactly going to, pin that first half on him. But it was a lifeless performance from the offense for all 4 quarters. But with Shea Patterson, there was no ingenuity, no excitement. I saw nothing to get excited for next season.
And also, Robustelli was not. He got hit in the hands at least twice, where he just couldn't bring it in. Once in the end zone, like
that was a good effort, though.
It was a good effort, but those are balls that you need to bring in, especially if you're trying to earn a spot on the team. And it was
on the one on the sideline, though. That was literally just a toe out of bounds, right? So
I know, but I don't know. It was just uninspired football. It was just boring to watch. It was so vanilla. And I guess that's what you want going into the playoffs. Just you don't want to tip your hand on what you're working on, and you're definitely not going to work on it with your second and third string guys.
And I'm glad you mentioned Joe Robustelli, because to me, he was the perfect example of, I don't know if you guys have heard of it, the RiderFans.com Terrence Nunn Award. But that to me, he was a shining example. He was the guy that you heard a lot about at camp. People were excited for him to finally get his chance. The lights came on and nothing. So a shout out to I can't remember who started that. I think it was BSD on riderfans.com started the Terrence Nunn Award, but he definitely is my nomination for 2024 anyways.
Yeah, I was a bit disappointed in Shea Patterson, just based off what we saw while he was the starting quarterback. But again, bunch of backups, not really meaning anything. I'm not too terribly worried about it. What about Jack Cohn, though? Because this is the first time we got to see him in any kind of action since that second preseason game. So I know his numbers weren't that great either. He was 10 of 21, had 100 yards, the touchdown pass to Jareth Stearns. I thought there was flashes of potential there, but it was also a guy that you could tell got 0 reps during the week. And when you don't get any reps and then you're thrown in with a bunch of backups where Mitch Picton and Colton Hunchak are your, 2 most targeted players, and Jareth Stearns in there as the only starter really. Would I've liked to see better? Sure. But also for that situation he was kind of thrown in, I'm fine with it. I thought he showed enough that he deserves a shot to come back to training camp next year.
Honestly, if nothing else, it gave us some actual chance on our short yardage conversion. If I see one more of those Shea Patterson run sideways along the line of scrimmage, short yardage plays in the playoffs, I too will throw my laptop.
You're definitely throwing your laptop then.
It's so predictable. He does it every time, and I'm not surprised that it got sniffed out on Saturday.
But the thing about Cohn is he did some things right, but you can tell he's still not completely used to the foibles of the CFL game. Near the end there, when they were going for it, he needed to go for it for a first down, and he tried to throw a check down. Like as a veteran, he's going to hang on to it longer, try to make something develop and work. But his immediate reaction was to get rid of the ball. So there's things he can work on, but I think he's shown that he has some potential. And like I said last week, they were already talking to Trevor Harris about Cohn being the next franchise quarterback when Shea Patterson is still in the room too.
No, they can pump the brakes on that at least for a little bit anyway. The defense. I think they did one very good thing in this game, the defense, and that was make Jake Mayer look good. And why is that good? Because that increases the chances that Jake Mayer is the starting quarterback in Calgary again next year, and I very much want that. Mayer looked all right, and the run defense was awful, but a lot of that was on that one big, long Dedrick Mills run in the second half there.
But also by making Jake Mayer look good, that shows you the importance of Roland Milligan, which helps our campaign for him as MOP, because that shows how much of an effect he has on that defense.
They looked lost out there at times, and that right there is my argument this week for, Roland Milligan for most outstanding player, which we still have a few of these left. So if you do want one, please send us a message, $20 for CFL Fans Fight Cancer, and we'll get you a lawn sign. I know the election in Saskatchewan is over, but there's still municipal elections, so it's still election season. Okay, so reach out to us, we'll get you a sign. $20 for CFL Fans Fight Cancer. But it showed exactly how important, how outstanding Roland Milligan has been this year with the way that defense and the secondary in particular played most of that game.
And maybe the other good thing to come out of this game was it made Dickinson look good enough to get another year as GM and head coach. So
which is what that's what their president is saying.
Yeah. Maybe this is all was a ploy by the Riders when they showed up when that game didn't matter. They said go out and give Calgary, let them have the game of their lives, so that where odds are better next year for us.
Corey Mace out there playing chess while everybody else is playing checkers. The attendance. There's a lot to make about the attendance. That's all I'm seeing is how there was 22,709 fans there. The lowest attended game at Mosaic Stadium since it opened.
Was that actual attendance or was that paid attendance?
I'm assuming that was probably scanned attendance.
Okay.
But that's what the team gives the media when they're up there in the press boxes. So that's what Joel Gass and that's what Britton Gray were posting about. So that's that number, 22,709. Are you guys worried about that? Because I'm seeing a lot of people just saying that this is just awful and Rider Pride is dead and it's on life support. Again, people are saying that again this week. For a game that you didn't know if it was going to mean anything, that's a tough draw for out-of-towners, especially because you have to leave when the Winnipeg-Montreal game is on. And you want to take that chance and then you show up and then this is the game you get. Like, I probably wouldn't want to drive from Saskatoon maybe to come to this one without knowing, right? So I can't blame people for not wanting to go. I didn't want to go, honestly. After Winnipeg beat Montreal, I was like, I don't really care. So I don't feel bad. Like, it's fine to me. Like, whatever. 7 other teams would love to have 22,000 people show up for a meaningless game.
Well, and that's my point. Is like everyone's like, oh, Riders on life support, right? Rider Nation is dead. Blah 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 blah. The Riders still have the second best attendance in this league. The only team beating them is Winnipeg. After us is BC by a couple of grand, and they're buoyed by a 50,000 home opener where they sold 50-cent tickets. So that's going to help their average. But the fact remains is the Riders are still the second best draw in this league. So a bad year for us, still a better year than anyone else besides Winnipeg. So let's pump the brakes. Yeah, have the last couple of years been a struggle for the diehards? Of course it is. Life's hard. Life's expensive. Games aren't getting cheaper. The team hasn't been good. The team has fallen apart so many times in the last couple of seasons. Fans are allowed to be skeptical. You need to rebuild that trust. You need to rebuild that relationship. So let the team do it. Quit saying the Rider Nation is dead.
Especially when you throw in that 06 and runs one stretch in the middle of the season this year too. You know, there was just that hot start followed by whatever that stretch was. And it kind of brought back a lot of those memories from 2022, 2023, where, you know, that passion not the passion, but the hope and that excitement of that start died off. You know, this 22,000 at a meaningless game, that sounds pretty good to me. You know, I'm interested to see what numbers are like for, you know, Saturday evening for a home playoff game, but I'm not ready to push the panic button.
Now, speaking of panic buttons, I'm seeing a lot of people talk about how this loss, that's not how you want to limp into the playoffs. A lot of people are worried that the team is going in on, I don't want to say it's losing streak because it's not a streak. It's one game, a meaningless game, but not going into the playoffs with a win. The team won 4 straight right before this. Does going into the playoffs with a loss concern you guys at all?
I would rather limp in like this than have Trevor Harris with a limp. Like, what they did was smart. They kept their players healthy. And like I said, they were playing half speed, so they stayed healthy. And that was probably part of the problem in the defense too. None of the guys were going for those big hits or the hard tackles because they didn't want to hurt themselves. So going in healthy was more important than a meaningless win against Calgary. Let Calgary have their win. I don't care as long as we go into the playoffs 100% healthy.
Now, do you like your biz kits with a limp? No?
Stop it.
Come on.
I wanted to make so many references. I'm like, no, that's not family friendly. No, that's not family friendly. I'm like, every Limp Bizkit song in my brain is going through. I'm like, I can't say that. I can't say that.
Something cookie. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, basically.
If you look at the guys that they sat this game, They weren't sitting raw rookies. They were sitting your outside of Keyshawn Johnson. They were sitting vets who can turn it back on when the playoffs come around. These aren't guys you need to stress about. Staying healthy, getting ready for the playoffs, that's what mattered. Like, anybody who thinks that loss is going to affect them going into this week, if it does, those players have no business playing professional football.
Here's why going in on a loss doesn't worry me. And in fact, I don't mind it so much. And I did some research. I took a solid 90 seconds to look this up.
Who are
I'm
you?
telling you.
I don't know you anymore.
I'm sorry. This is not what I normally do. I don't research anything. 90 seconds, I swear. Go back to 2013 when the Riders won the Grey Cup, beat BC at home in the West semifinal. Parallels are there right now. They lost 2 straight to end that season. Then they turned it on in the playoffs. 2007, home playoff game or home regular season finale against Toronto, final week of the year. They lose 41-13. Then they go and win the Grey Cup in 2007. This is why I'm not worried. Teams know when to turn it on and when to just play to not get hurt. And that's exactly what we saw. So I'm not worried about it. When you have good coaching, you'll be prepared. And this is where we're at right now. I think we have the coaching in place where we are going to be prepared and they're going to come out firing against the BC Lions here. So not worried about this one. I know a lot of people are. I don't know why. Yeah, I would have liked to see them win because you always want to see your team win, but let's be realistic here. Come on. Last thing for the opening kickoff here. Roster notes. Robert Javier, the defensive back. That was Javier. I'm sorry. I don't know if it's Javier or Javier. He was signed about a month ago, released a couple weeks ago, was signed to a futures deal for 2025. So he'll be at training camp next season. But that's the opening kickoff presented by Kathy Festian of Royal LePage Regina Realty. Let's jump to our Churchill Brewing Company odds and end zones. And as we predicted last week, the day after we recorded was when the team nominees for Player of the Year came out. And we all know who's like Roland Milligan up for MOP, Most Outstanding Defensive Player, Special Teams for the Riders, Sam Emelis, Canadian, Trevor Reed for Most Outstanding Rookie, and Logan Ferland for Offensive Lineman, which all of those was pretty much a given, honestly. Special Teams one, I'm a little bit surprised that they actually did give it to Roland Milligan, but I think that also, again, helps his, resume for Most Outstanding Player. But my question to you guys is, who on this list for the Rider team nominees could win their award?
The most obvious one is Logan Ferland. I think he's by far the leader in the entire CFL. Looking at all the other nominees, don't get me wrong, I want Milligan for OP, DP, and special teams, but I think it's going to be a miracle even if he's nominated for Most Outstanding Player. I see Most Outstanding Defensive Player in his future, but that matchup against Beverett is going to be very East biased heavy.
I think obviously I'm with Greg on this one. Logan Ferland's the clear choice, given the injuries that we sustained on this offensive line, and to see the success in keeping our quarterbacks upright through most of the game. That alone should earn him a nomination. I worry about Roland Milligan for defensive player again. Beverett had another solid game to end the season, and Milligan sat for another game. And I think that'll hurt his chances a little bit. The rest of them, I don't see a pathway for them to be the West nominee, let alone the league nominee.
Yeah, when you look at Most Outstanding Player, it's Milligan or Brady Oliveira in the West, right? So probably the bias goes to the offensive player. Defensive player, yes, it will be Roland Milligan. I know Bomber fans are like, no, it's Tyrell Ford, who had a very good season as well, too, but he didn't have a Roland Milligan season. Canadian, probably Brady Oliveira. But I'm curious if the voters are going to put him up for MLP and then Justin McInnes for Canadian, just to kind of balance it out a little bit.
I truly believe they're going to vote split on that one. Where if Olivier is their OP, then McInnes is going to be Canadian.
It'd be really funny if there was just enough vote splitting that Roland Milligan was the MOP and Justin McInnes was the most outstanding Canadian. That would be just chef's kiss.
Offensive lineman, I'm worried that, I mean, the resume that Stanley Bryant has over his career, not that I think he had a better year than Logan Ferland, because I don't think he did. I think Logan Ferland had the better season, but knowing the vote, how voters vote, it's based on the past. And I can really see it.
Me God. So help me God. Stanley Bryant is the West nominee. There's going to have to be a language warning on that following podcast. This is not.
Games did he miss when he went? Was it 2 or 3?
This isn't a lifetime
sure,
achievement award. This is for this season. So no. You've been warned, people.
Greg will drop those F-bombs. Rookie, I would really like to see it be Trevor Reed, because he's been an absolute fantastic find for the Riders this year. But also, he didn't have 1,000 yards receiving like Ontario Wilson did. So I think he's the easy pick in the West. So really, it's Roland Milligan. You're our only hope. Save us, Roland Milligan. Did I do the Star Wars thing right, Steve?
Close enough.
Yeah, that works. Okay. Anyway, the biggest news in the CFL this week, of course, was dropped by Arash Madani of Sportsnet, followed up by Dave Naylor of TSN. Randy Ambrosie, CFL commissioner, out. Done after this year as commissioner. He is going to stay on until his replacement is hired in 2025. So, not going to say, was it a success? Was it a failure? Because when it comes to the commissioner spot in the CFL, you're a puppet. You do what the Board of Governors tells you to say, good or bad. And I feel so bad for CFL commissioners because they're just the talking piece. They don't have any real sway in how things go in the league. That comes from the board. So I feel bad for Randy because he takes the media beatings, the beatings from the fans online, everything like that, while the Board of Governors just sits back and just do. But they're the ones making the decisions. So it's probably the most thankless job in the league, probably in sports, as CFL commissioner. But just want to get your guys' take on what we saw on, what was that, Saturday, that the news came out about Randy Ambrosie being done as commissioner.
Oh, you're not wrong. The commissioner of the CFL is Operation Human Shield.
That sounds like a ding to me. You're not wrong.
It's not the same thing.
Damn it.
Also, you've got the buttons too. I think the one who has the buttons is Steve.
No, I got the buttons too. I just don't know how to use them.
Oh, I found it.
There you go.
Yeah.
But the fact remains is it is his job to take the crap from the fans and the media when the board just sits there and makes all the decisions. Does he have some say in the handing out of discipline? Of course he does. That's his job because the board can't do that. But the remainder of the stuff that the fans get the maddest about, it's not him.
We've talked about this nonstop over the last couple of years as there's been talk about Ambrosie, people wanting Ambrosie out. He is nothing more than a mouthpiece. This is not a huge surprise, though, given the loud crowd from outside, calling for his head effectively. He had a tough act to follow. Jeffrey Orridge was okay, but anybody that's followed Mark Cohan, it is going to be hard to step up and fill those shoes, and they still haven't found the guy that can do it. Ambrosie was solid at getting the message across, but it always felt like you were talking to a lawyer. The answers were very, how do you word it?
Prepared.
Very lawyer-esque. Like he he gave you the written answer. He gave you the answers that he had and nothing more. There was never anything more to it. I'm interested to see who they bring in next to replace him, because they do need somebody with that life, like a Mark Cohan, that can kind of reignite CFL fandom across the country.
Glenn Suter, just to get him off TSN.
Actually, there's no one that champions the league more than Glenn Suter. There's no one that champions Canadians in the game more than Glenn Suter, to the point where it's annoying. But at the same time, the guy loves the game. He loves this league. I don't know if there's anybody that I know that loves the game more than him. And he's always said that he would love to at least, throw his name in the hat. So I wouldn't be surprised if he does. It was funny you say that just to get him off of TSN. I actually sent that message to John Fraser in a DM. I was like, yep, get Suits on there just so he's not on TSN anymore.
That would unite CFL fans everywhere. That would unite CFL fans.
That message might have been going around a lot over the last few days in messages across the league.
But honestly, if they did take him from TSN, I would say Dwayne Ford. But that's just me. I think he would be also a very good choice.
How about this name? This is something Milt Stiegel suggested, and I really like this. The more I think about it, the more I really do like this idea. Mike Morreale, former receiver for the Ticats, commissioner of the CEBL, and was the commissioner when that league started up, the basketball league here in Canada. The guy knows the CFL. He knows the league. He knows the game. Knows what it takes to be a commissioner of a league. Has had success doing that. The CEBL is doing pretty solid. I wonder if that's something he would throw his name in the hat for. That's a name that really intrigues me. And if he did, I'd be totally on board with that.
I think it's a good choice as a traditional commissioner, but as we just discussed, the CFL commissioner is not what being the commissioner of the CEBL is. He has a lot more power and sway of what happens in that league than he would in the CFL. That's why I suggested like a Suter, someone who is basically going to be your mouthpiece anyway, and not a lot of power, because I think Morreale, while would be an awesome choice, would probably get frustrated very quickly.
But on the flip side, you look at Morreale as a CEBL commissioner. I imagine the paycheck to jump over to the CFL as CFL commissioner is probably substantially higher. I would have to assume.
I would hope so.
Like if it's not, we have some serious issues. Now I've seen the CFL head office. It's not exactly the it's not a gigantic mansion, but I'd like to think that role is rather well paid, and that could maybe sway a guy like Mike Morreale.
I swear to God, they paid Randy in scarves. He always had like nice scarves
and suits.
But it is interesting though because with Randy, apparently he had the new owner's approval for next season. So BC, Edmonton, Montreal. But it was existing ownership groups that wanted to move on from him. That again, coming from Arash Madani. So it's interesting where the new guys that everybody seems to like wanted him around, or at least were willing to give him one full year with, the new ownership groups as a whole. Right. And I guess he didn't get that vote of confidence from everybody. So it's going to be interesting to see what the league does in the off season here. When they announce that, obviously it's going to be a pretty extensive, I would hope, an extensive, position to fill. So it won't.
I'll keep my phone by the bedside table just in case they want to give me a call for an interview.
If Lucas is
I am
listening,
open to the role.
Yeah, Lucas has our number. He's got our email. He can send you a message. Do we have to start another campaign if Steve applies?
I think all three of us should apply like Step. It should be like Step Brothers, all three of us.
Yeah, just out of nowhere, one of us is right behind another.
Bunk beds in the CFL head office.
Oh, so much more room for activities. Yeah, so we'll see what happens with the commissioner thing. But Randy Ambrosie out as CFL commissioner, and he can go back to being a fan again. One more thing here in the odds and end zones before we look at this game against BC for the playoffs. We saw a walk-off rouge on a punt. Edmonton winning with a hell of a kick from Jake Julian. That was a 70-yard kick. Is that walk-off punt rouge better or worse than a walk-off rouge on a missed field goal?
I mean, it's better in that at least they were trying for that one, although Toronto says they weren't trying to kick the field goal. At least a punt from 50 yards out, that's an athletic play that not everybody can make. Kudos for that. It's still dumb. I hate it. You should have to play the ball. I don't care if you punt it to 1 yard deep in the end zone or 19 yards deep in the end zone. It should be playable. These rouges it gets laughed at by fans outside of the CFL, and to me, rightfully so.
I don't know if laughed at's the right term. I see more vitriol from established fans thinking everyone else is making fun of us. No, you guys are just complaining over nothing. Do I think the rouge rules need to be tweaked? Yes, I still stand by what you just said. It should be a playable ball, or you reward a kicker for landing it to a spot where the returner can get it, and then it goes out of bounds. But yeah, just to rifle it through the end zone. I didn't like it when John Ryan did it for the Rams way back in the day, and I still don't like it now.
But it rewards field position, guys.
Not in that play. Not in that play. If you're forcing them to kick it in bounds, yes, it does. But just to have a guy just like rocket kick it out of bounds through the back is not for field position. The rouge itself, as is, does reward field position. But that loophole through the back of the end zone is not.
I wonder if the new commissioner, could you imagine that's the new commissioner's first thing, talking with the rules committee, and all of a sudden you're talking about altering the rouge as your first major decision. We want to talk about expansion and getting video games and whatnot. We're going to alter the rouge. That's going to be the guy's legacy or whoever the person's legacy. Like,
there would be people giving him a parade if he did it. I swear to God.
Yeah. I'm with you guys. Just if it's playable, fine. But I hated this. And the fact that Edmonton celebrated the way that they did was just sad. It was sad.
Fitting.
Is there a better way to describe the 2024 Edmonton Elks than celebrating a meaningless win in a walk-off punt rouge? Just feels appropriate.
See, they would have lost that if it was Chris Jones still coaching them.
Hey, at least they know the punt rules on that end of it.
Okay, well, back to the Riders. Playoffs. Riders Lions Saturday 4:30. They're going to wear their Obsidian uniforms for this one. Why are people upset about this? I see people online for every single game. Mostly it's on Facebook. I don't care if you wear pink. Just win the game. All of a sudden, they're the ones that are mad that they should be wearing the retros because that's what they do is they wear their retros in the playoffs.
The minute they announced that we're in the Obsidian, I'm like, there's going to be people hella mad about this. Because if anything, Rider fans are predictable. And if anything, Rider fans like their traditions. And the retros in the playoffs is part of it.
We have not won a playoff game at home wearing the retros since 2013.
I know.
I'm good with that particular history dying. It's time to move on. The players have all very publicly said They like the retros. They feel good in the retros. They want to wear the retros. I believe it was Trevor Harris who was very publicly saying
Obsidian. They want to wear the Obsidian.
Sorry, Obsidian. Thank you. Harris said he wanted to play in the retro or in the Obsidians. This is what the players want. Give it to them. If it's any bit, even a slight bit of positive energy into that game, you do it. If it helps the players, you do it. And frankly, I love the retros. They had their time. That 2007 to 2013 stretch, rocking those retros in the playoffs was beautiful. It's a new era. Let's embrace it.
I was going to try and fact check you about wearing the retros because I thought 2021 they would have worn the retros for the semifinal against Calgary. Turns out they wore their regular shield, their regular logos. So, Which was interesting because, again, it was always retros in the playoffs, right? Who cares?
Hang on, I got this.
I don't care. Just win. You can wear white uniforms. I really don't care. Wear the black and red, those ugly, stupid things that they wore the one time back in 2010.
Bring back the signature look.
Sure. Yeah. I don't care. I really don't. I don't know why it's such a big deal. If the players want to wear Obsidian, let them wear Obsidian. Who cares? Let them. If they feel better about it, cool. Whatever gets them to win this game. That's all I care about. The important things, right? So we only have 1 day of practice to look at for this game. But when you look at the injury report and the roster updates here, 3 guys back to full practices, which was really nice to see. Reichel Armstead. But the 2 that really caught my eye, Peter Godber, who's been practicing the last couple of weeks, mostly in a limited participation, was full a little bit last week. And Ryan Sevier, offensive lineman, of course, was a full participant in Tuesday's practice. So, got to ask again about the ratio. Is this something with Reichel Armstead, obviously, practicing? Is this the game we're going to see AJ Ouellette and Reichel Armstead on the field, on the roster together, which means Peter Godber would come back onto the roster, taking Jacob Brammer off of right guard?
I think so.
I hope so.
But do you want to ruin that continuity? Because the offensive line has been very solid, the way that it has been with the 3 Americans.
I have a lot of faith in Edwin Harrison to coach up whatever 5. I feel like he could throw us 3 out there on the interior of that line, and somehow it would work.
I'm working on the figure right now.
I trust him. I trust the coaches. I think if you can get more Canadians on the roster and allow that import running back duo without a drop off at talent on the O line, you do it 100 times. And adding Peter Godber to that offensive line is an improvement, period.
Yeah, adding Godber to that line, moving Ferland back to his natural position.
Yeah.
Like that is, at worst, that's an even move. It's not a drop. If anything, it's probably an improvement because Ferland, as good as he's been, is not a natural center. So I think it's what you need to do to make your team as a whole better. So it always was the tackles that was the issue. I think we've gotten that figured out. You could cycle any of the guards in and we're fine. So I think you do what you can to get 3 Canadians on that line so you can bring in the thunder and lightning of Armstead and Ouellette.
And the potential addition of Ryan Sevier as well, too, because now the 6-game injured list doesn't actually take effect for the playoffs as well, too. It ends at the end of the regular season. So Ryan Sevier, if he's able to go and can be the 6th man on the offensive line, I think I'm good with that for the playoffs, where you kind of want your veterans in there, guys that have been in playoff games, have won playoff games like Ryan Sevier has. Nothing against Noah Zur because he's been very solid this season, playing at guard, being the 6th offensive lineman. But if you can get your guys who, going into the season, were going to be your guys and you have them now, I think you have to do it no matter what. This is, and Steve, that was a great point about Edwin Harrison, that it doesn't matter who it seems is out there on the line. He'll coach them up. They'll be ready. So if there's a chance that you can get Godber and Sevier on there, you do it. You find a way to do it, and you just have to. You're on mute, Steve.
I told you guys that was going to happen at least once.
You did.
The one thing I wonder, and I don't know if I've seen anything. I haven't seen any reports. Were either of them with the ones at practice today? It doesn't seem like there was a lot of news out of practice.
We're not going to get a lot out of practice this week. There's even the fans that go there that do post on Rider Fans about practice. They're going to be very quiet for the playoffs.
I appreciate that. Maybe not from the reporting side, but from the let's win this football game side. Smart move.
Now, flipping over to the other side, we know it's going to be Vernon Adams Jr. for the BC Lions at quarterback. Are you worried about the BC offense in this game? Because this one's not going to be a 38-9 game like the last game against these guys were, right? Like, it's Nathan Rourke returning from the NFL this year, just didn't have it. Outside of the Touchdown Pacific game, was not good this year. But Vernon Adams is clearly healthy, and when he's healthy, we've seen him be the best player in the league, which is what he was for the first few games of this season. Are you guys worried about their offense with the receiving, stars that they have out in BC with Vernon?
I just hope Roland Milligan spends the entire day duct taped to Justin McInnes. That don't have him anywhere else. Play zone everywhere else all you want. But he's in that game we lost earlier in the season. Justin McInnes alone beat us. You cover him, or at least try to cover him, and I feel like I like our odds no matter who's at quarterback. He's what scares me. And that feels weird to me saying that after the last few years in Ryder Green. He was never that guy here, but he's definitely that guy out in BC. He's him, as the young kids say.
I almost cringed when you said that.
I just hope Dylan's listening to this one just so he hears that.
I love VA. I think the Lions moving away from him to put Rourke in before Rourke was ready this year was a bad move, obviously, considering where they finished. I'm not scared of VA. For some reason, VA doesn't really have great games against us, minus the Justin McInnes game this year. But previous games going in, the Riders usually play VA really tight. And usually the backup that ends up messing us up after the fact.
I am curious to see how the Riders defense attacks Vernon Adams, because he's a mobile guy. And if he's running around, he's at his best. Do you have someone like Jameer Thurman maybe spy him a little bit more than he normally would? And speaking of Thurman, how close to the ball does he play? Because Justin McInnes exploited that middle of the zone defense behind Thurman in front of the safeties in that game in BC. How are they going to defend that, right? Because I would assume if I'm BC, that worked to the tune of 243 yards against this team back in July. Why would you not at least start doing that just to see if the Riders learned anything? So if I'm BC, I'm probably going to try to take a couple shots down the middle of the field with Justin McInnes. Maybe it's Keon Hatcher, whoever, right? So I'm really curious to see how the defense for the Riders attacks this. Are they going to continue running the same thing that they have, playing a little bit of a soft zone and leaving that middle open? And if they do, how long are they going to do that if BC starts to exploit it on their opening drive?
But I think we have already seen the Riders adjust to that. Like, Rourke or VA can still hit that soft zone it doesn't matter. The Riders figured that out that last game. So will they go back to? Of course, you're going to test it, because that's McInnes's money right there. You're going to test it, but I think the Riders know how to play that now. It's just going to be the extra wrinkle of VA can run if he has to. That's where that entire Trey Ford Edmonton game messed up the Riders last time. They concentrated too much in keeping him in check that it completely opened holes for other people to run on them.
Give me an X factor in this game.
Is it lazy to say Roland Milligan?
Yes and no.
We saw against Calgary what he means to this defense. If he's on the field, I have full faith that the Rider defense will do enough to win. To me, they need to continue doing what they've done best all year, and that's win the takeaway battle and let Roland Milligan do his thing.
I'm going to go with the running game. I think the if they can do the roster where you have both Armstead and Ouellette on, or even just one of them, they are going to have to rely on the running game. It's not a full cold weather game, but as this playoff goes on, especially going into Winnipeg, whoever wins this, they need to get that running game in full stride, because it's going to be loud in Winnipeg and it's going to be cold. So they're going to have to learn to get that running game go early, so then you can have your Harris make those quick passes and slice up the secondary.
I'm going to go with the Riders D line. There's been they were leading the league in sacks for most of the season. What are they, third to finish the year, I think, maybe. But there's been a downwards trend over the last few weeks. The defensive line has not been getting a lot of pressure lately. And with Malik Carney coming back last week, I was kind of hoping against Calgary he'd be able to not light it up, but be the guy that he was before. And I didn't see it. But then, to be fair, try not to get injured, right? If that front four, whichever four, because it's a rotation, obviously, if that front four can get pressure consistently on Vernon Adams, just to get him to alter throws, to step out of the pocket and not run around, but just have to move from where he needs to be to make a throw, throwing off his back foot, whatever the case is. That's going to be the Riders' defensive success in this one, is just don't let Vernon Adams get into a rhythm, because we've seen how dangerous he can be when he gets going. So if you can get pressure on him, hit him a couple times, that's going to be where the Riders are going to win this game. I think it's going to be a really tight game. I think it's going to be a very close game. This is not going to be, like I said, that 38-9 game. It's going to be tight. And with what we've seen against BC in the playoffs over the years, why would you expect anything less? And
so,
Steve, you actually
help me God if we have to trust Trevor Harris's legs to bring home the victory.
Steve, you actually brought up a good point. I don't know whose stat you stole this from maybe it was Rob Vanstone. But the Riders,
I just got bored Googling at work today and then started looking at the past games, because I saw BC say that this is the 7th matchup, and I'm like, really? Only 7? And then I went back looking at all of them. And go ahead.
Yeah, so Riders and BC have only played each other 7 times in the West semifinal in history. I mean, to be fair, a lot of times the Riders didn't make the playoffs. So, and BC was first for a lot of the years, especially in the mid 2000s. All 6 of those previous games, this one being the 7th, have been in Regina, have been in Saskatchewan. And we had the 2013 game. We all know how that was. It was looking bleak until Darian Durant put the team on his back, willed us to victory. 2010 semifinal, where it was the Jason Claremont walk-off touchdown, which, of course, it was a Geroy Simon Hail Mary at the end of the game. Was it Geroy Simon? Maybe it was somebody else, but I think it was Geroy Simon. Caught a Hail Mary at the end of the game. Maybe Manny Arsenault.
For sure.
So that one, yeah. So that one was a tight game. 2008. Well, that was the one that BC won because they played Michael Bishop instead of Darian Durant. I
was at that game. That was like the worst game ever.
I don't think I've ever been more mad at a game than that one. At least at a Rider home game. I was mad. And Section 27, we never sat down in Section 27. We were standing up all the time, especially in the playoffs. We were up all the time. And I remember
Section 27.
The best. I got my row right up here on the wall here. Seat 6 and 7 from row 34.
Yeah, mine's just around the corner.
And actually, as we record this, it's actually on the anniversary of the last game at Taylor Field against BC.
Yes.
Let's hope this one goes better than that.
8 years ago. Wow. But yeah, that 08 game, I remember in the fourth quarter, I sat down and I was so mad. I sat there pouting, arms crossed, I could barely see the field because everybody was still standing. And I was like, I'm so mad. So hopefully that won't be the case this time.
Like I said, that was Darian Durant's biggest ovation when they finally pulled Bishop until the 2013 Grey Cup.
But based off history and how these two teams play each other in the playoffs, this is going to be a close one. So I expect nothing less out of this one. It's going to be a tough one. And I'm not saying this is going to be like 2013, where the winner of this game goes on the road the next week and beats up the other team, because I really think 2013, and yeah, sure, maybe this is a little bit of hindsight, but I remember back then saying whoever wins this is going to the Grey Cup.
Well, that's because Calgary had a bunch of injuries because they played played their D line and a bunch of them got hurt. So yeah, everyone knew whoever won that game was going to the Grey Cup.
Yeah, they were just going to run, and that's exactly what Corey Sheets did in that West Final. But should be a really interesting game. Should be a good one, and we're looking right now at 23,000 seats sold. And again, kind of circle back. Everybody complaining about lack of tickets sold. Well, this is what it is. It's so much easier to stay at home, watch a game, and be warm. It's cheaper to do so. And if you have to travel for a game, like, I think we've seen our cap at how many fans in Regina are willing to go to games. I think we see that. So we're missing now the out-of-towners, but I don't fault them for not being able to come in. That's a lot of money you're spending when you can just watch it on TV at home.
TV sports, with the advent of HD and the presentations and 80-inch TVs, it's no longer staring across a room at a 20-inch screen. Like, it is a better experience to stay home. So that's why they are trying different things. That's why you have your pill countries. That's why you have your in-stadium entertainment that people find annoying, is because they need to make it fun for people to come.
And speaking of in-game entertainment, I'd be remiss if we didn't give a huge shout out to the 13th fan of the year from 2024. We all know him pretty well, Govind Akuthan, who runs riderfans.com. Huge fan from Calgary, great guy, regular listener too. Which, as a Rider fan, I'm wondering why he listens to us. But he already has all the information.
Yeah,
but
as
kudos to him for that win. He absolutely deserving of that award.
Yeah, there's not one Rider fan I can think of that's more deserving than being the fan of the year than Gove. So very, very much deserved, Gove. So it's nice to see the Riders do that for the last game. Okay, well, 2 games to pick. Are we going to count these in our pick'em?
I'm just shy of my 52. Like I'm almost there.
So
I'm pretty close. I might get there.
Yeah, Steve still can't catch us. You and me are tied. Right?
There's only 5 games left. All right. Well, to break the tie, then we'll count this for our pick'em, because you got your 2-2 last week, Greg. I was 1-3, so now we're both 41-40 to finish the regular season. So, all right, we'll count it now. We'll do our Piffles picks.
Piffles Picks.
Well, folks, When you're right 52% of the time, you're wrong 48% of the time.
I'm really starting to hate Ottawa. Anytime I pick them, they don't come in.
Then please don't pick them this week.
Well, the spread might be favorable for me.
Okay, well, let's do the East semifinal where we have Ottawa at Toronto. Steve, do you want to guess on this one, or do you want to guess on the Rider one first?
Well, I'll guess this one. I'm going to go Toronto by 4.5.
I'm going to go Toronto 3.5.
5.5.
Wow.
I'm going to take Toronto in this one. Nothing that we've seen from Ottawa lately gives me any hope that they can knock off the Argos.
I think they might cover. I don't think they're gonna win, but I think they might cover. I'll take that 5.5.
I will go with the Argos in this one. No real rhyme or reason behind it. Just think they'll cover.
Just going the opposite of me. Just trying to get.
I guess so. Yeah, because we're probably going to pick the same on this one actually.
Probably yes.
Which is of course BC at Saskatchewan, and I will guess that it's the Riders by 2.5.
I'm going to go 3.5.
Even 3.
Even 3. Wow. God, it's going to be a push, isn't it? I'll start this one. I'm taking the Riders because I think it's going to be a 4-point game. I think it's going to be BC leading by 3. Trevor Harris puts together a drive with a couple minutes left. The Riders score a touchdown, take a 4-point lead, and then we're going to get a Hail Mary chance. And for once, BC isn't going to catch it against us because it's not G. Roy Simon this time. So that's how I see this game ending out. No Jaden Daniels magic in this one.
Can you not put that out into the world? I like the win, but I don't like the stress of that. I want a nice 10-point, 14-point victory where it just feels comfortable most of the way through. Can we have one of those in the playoffs, please?
No.
Probably not.
I'm going to take the Riders to cover. I have to, but I hope it's a little bit farther away than a BC lead with 2 minutes to go. I don't like that.
Yeah, I don't feel like white knuckling my way through this game either, but I'm taking the Riders to win by more than a field goal.
Well, I think it'll be like with 5 minutes left. It's not going to be with 2 minutes left. It'll be like a 3.5-minute drive by Harris.
It doesn't matter. Like I lived through the Thunder being up on the hilltops and them coming down in a minute for a 30-yard pass in the end zone that barely got knocked out. Like I don't need to live that twice.
I want every single quarter to end with the Riders in the lead by at least 2 scores. That's it.
You're not asking
Nice,
for much,
comfortable.
are you?
Not much at all. It could be 9 points for all I care. They could go up 9-0 and nobody score another point for the rest of the game. I'd be fine with that. Just give me some like a nice stress-free win, just one time.
I wish you well on that, Steve. I really do.
I've been a Rider fan long enough. I know that's not what's going to happen.
I would
never
like
does.
nothing more than for you to get your wish for this one. I really would.
Like that 38-9 game would be beautiful.
Oh yeah, totally.
Oh yeah.
Give us that.
Well, it'll be another fun one at Mosaic with the BC Lions there, and it's playoffs, baby. I don't care. Just win. I don't care if you're wearing pink. I don't care if you only win by 1. Just get the dub, and just do it. That's all I care about. So, see what happens this Saturday, Mosaic, 4:30. Hope to see you guys there. If you see us, come say hi.
I had somebody come up to me and say he's a regular listener at the game and wanted to get a picture with the Roland Milligan sign. And that, no matter how many times it happens, that is weird to me every time. As guys who very clearly have the face for radio, getting recognized now is a scary thing. So whoever that was, if you could tag me in the picture, because I didn't get your name, it was lovely to meet you. That's all I got.
And that's all I got. So we'll leave it there here for the Piffles podcast. We'll be back next week. Look at this game against the Riders in BC and knock on wood. Riders Winnipeg next week. Piffles podcast brought to you by our great friends at Dairy Queen on Elphinstone Street and Sass Drive in Regina. Special thanks, of course, to Kathy Festian of Royal LePage Regina Realty and Churchill Brewing Company for their support making the show happen. Thanks for listening wherever you get your podcasts, watching on YouTube or SaskTel Max TV on demand. We appreciate it. Thank you. This is Ghost Behind Your Mind by Tyler Gilbert.